Most men completely miss the moment a woman starts liking them, not because she hides it, but because the signal is so subtle, most people never notice it. There's a strange truth about attraction that no one teaches you. When a woman begins to feel drawn to a man, her body often reveals it long before her words ever do. Attraction is not just something we say, it's something our nervous system quietly broadcasts, and one of the clearest signals appears in a place almost no one pays attention to: touch. Not the obvious kind, not the dramatic movie moment where someone grabs your hand and confesses their feelings. Real attraction is far more quiet than that. It leaks out through small, almost invisible gestures. Psychologists have studied this for years. Human beings communicate enormous emotional information through body language. In fact, many studies suggest that a large portion of communication between people happens without a single word being spoken. Your brain is constantly reading signals: tone, eye contact, posture, and especially touch. But here's what most people misunderstand. Touch is not random. When someone feels comfortable and emotionally engaged with another person, their body naturally seeks proximity. The closer someone feels emotionally, the more likely they are to break the invisible barrier of personal space. That barrier exists for a reason. Our brains are wired to protect our physical space. Strangers stay outside of it. Acquaintances hover near the edge. But when someone feels attraction, something fascinating happens. The distance shrinks. Now pay attention to this carefully. When a woman likes you, one of the first unconscious behaviors she may display is touching something near you while speaking to you. Maybe it's her necklace, maybe it's her hair, maybe it's her arm or collarbone. It looks small, almost meaningless, but psychologically, it's not meaningless at all. This gesture is often called self-touch behavior, and it reveals something powerful about emotional awareness and attraction. When someone becomes slightly nervous, excited, or self-aware around another person they find attractive, the body sometimes releases that tension through subtle physical movements, touching the neck, adjusting jewelry, running fingers through hair. These actions calm the nervous system, they regulate emotional energy, but they also signal that someone is highly aware of the interaction happening in that moment. Think about the last time you were around someone you found deeply attractive. Your brain probably became more alert. You became more conscious of how you were sitting, how you were speaking, what you were doing with your hands. Attraction increases self-awareness, and self-touch gestures often follow. But here's where things become even more interesting. Researchers studying attraction dynamics notice that these gestures appear most frequently when two conditions exist at the same time: interest and safety. Interest alone isn't enough. If a woman finds someone attractive but feels uncomfortable or unsure, her body will actually move further away. Her posture will close. Her gestures will become guarded. But when attraction exists alongside emotional comfort, her body begins to relax in subtle ways. Shoulders loosen, eye contact increases, and small self-touch behaviors appear. These gestures are not conscious strategies. Most people performing them have no idea they're doing it. That's why they're powerful signals. You can fake words, you can fake a smile, but unconscious body language is incredibly difficult to control. And here's the deeper psychological layer most people never think about. Touch is one of the earliest forms of human communication. Before we ever learn language, we experience connection through physical contact. Comfort, safety, affection, reassurance, all communicated through touch. So when attraction begins forming between two adults, the brain often revisits that primitive communication system. Small touches begin appearing. Sometimes she'll adjust something near her neckline while looking at you. Sometimes she'll lightly touch her arm during conversation. Sometimes she'll play with a bracelet or ring while holding eye contact. It's not the object that matters, it's the timing. These gestures often appear when she's focused on you, when the conversation becomes engaging, when there's a moment of connection, her body becomes slightly more animated, and these tiny signals start appearing. But here's the part most people misunderstand. One gesture alone doesn't prove attraction. Human behavior is complex. People touch their hair or adjust clothing for many reasons. That's why the real secret isn't noticing a single sign. It's recognizing patterns. Attraction is rarely one big signal. It's a cluster of small behaviors happening together. A glance held slightly longer, a smile that arrives quickly, a body that angles toward you rather than away, and those subtle touches that appear during moments of connection. These signals create a pattern, and patterns tell the truth. But here's something even more important. The goal is not to turn human connection into a checklist. Attraction is not a puzzle you solve by analyzing every movement someone makes. It's a dynamic emotional exchange between two people. These signals simply help you understand what your eyes might otherwise miss, because many people spend years believing someone wasn't interested, when the signals were quietly there the entire time. The real skill isn't memorizing body language tricks, it's learning to become present enough to notice them. And presence is rare. Most people walk through conversations distracted by their own thoughts. They're worrying about what to say next. They're wondering how they appear. They're focused inward instead of outward. But attraction lives in awareness. When you truly observe someone, their behavior begins revealing things words never say. And the moment you start noticing these signals, human interaction becomes far more fascinating. But self-touch gestures are only the beginning, because there's another signal that appears even more consistently when a woman feels drawn to someone. It's so common that once you see it, you'll begin noticing it everywhere, and strangely enough, it has nothing to do with what she touches, but everything to do with where her attention keeps returning. There is a moment in every conversation when attention quietly reveals attraction. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but once you understand it, you'll realize how often it happens right in front of you. Because when a woman begins to feel drawn to a man, her attention starts behaving differently. Human attention is incredibly valuable. Your brain filters thousands of signals every second, deciding what deserves focus and what doesn't. Most people pass through our awareness like background noise. We listen politely, respond briefly, and move on. But attraction changes that filter. When someone captures your interest, your brain begins prioritizing them without asking your permission. You listen more carefully, you remember small details, and most importantly, your attention keeps drifting back toward them, even when it doesn't need to. This is why one of the most powerful signs of attraction is something most men overlook entirely: repeated attention. Not just looking at you once, but returning to you again and again. Maybe you're in a group conversation, several people are talking. The topic shifts between different voices, yet every time something funny happens or something interesting is said, her eyes find you again. That repeated return of attention is not random. Your brain naturally checks in with the person it feels most connected to in the room. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as attention anchoring. When someone becomes emotionally important in a social environment, our awareness keeps orienting back toward them like a compass finding north. It's subtle, but it's incredibly revealing. Think about how people behave around someone they feel completely neutral about. Their attention wanders, their eyes move freely around the room, their body orientation shifts depending on whoever is speaking. But when attraction appears, something changes. Their awareness becomes magnetized. You'll notice moments where her gaze returns to you when she laughs, moments where she checks your reaction after saying something, moments where her body slightly turns toward you even if others are speaking. Your presence becomes her reference point. And that's not something people consciously decide to do. It happens automatically when emotional interest begins forming. But here's where it becomes even more interesting. Attraction doesn't just pull attention closer, it also increases emotional curiosity. When a woman likes you, she often becomes more interested in the small details of your life, not the surface information everyone shares, the deeper things, how you think, what motivates you, what experiences shaped you. Curiosity is one of the most powerful psychological indicators of attraction because it shows investment. Your brain doesn't spend energy exploring people it feels indifferent about. It saves that energy for people who matter. So, when someone asks thoughtful follow-up questions, when they lean into your stories, when they remember details you mentioned days or weeks earlier, something meaningful is happening. They're mentally investing in you. An investment is the early stage of emotional attachment. But here's a subtle behavior that often appears alongside this curiosity. When a woman likes you, she often begins mirroring small aspects of your behavior. You may not notice it at first, but if you lean slightly forward while talking, she might lean forward too. If you laugh and relax your posture, her posture may relax in a similar way. If you speak with certain gestures, her gestures might start reflecting that rhythm. This is known in psychology as behavioral mirroring, and it's one of the most fascinating unconscious signals humans display. Our brains naturally mimic people we feel connected to. It's a social bonding mechanism that helps build rapport. When two people feel emotionally aligned, their body language gradually synchronizes. Their posture becomes similar, their tone of voice aligns, even their speaking pace may begin matching. And the remarkable part is that most people have absolutely no awareness they're doing it. It's the nervous system quietly creating harmony between two individuals. This is why some conversations feel effortlessly comfortable. The two people involved are unconsciously syncing their communication patterns. But attraction amplifies this effect. The more emotionally engaged someone becomes, the more likely their behavior will subtly reflect the person they're drawn to. It's almost like two musical instruments slowly finding the same rhythm. Now here's where many people make a mistake. They look for one single magic signal that proves someone likes them. But real human behavior doesn't work that way. Attraction is rarely a single event. It's a pattern of signals appearing together. Attention returning repeatedly, curiosity increasing, body language aligning, small self-touch gestures appearing during conversation. These patterns form a quiet language. And once you learn to observe it, interactions between people start revealing layers most people never notice. But there's an important reminder here. These signals are not meant to be used like a manipulation strategy. They're simply insights into human psychology. Real connection cannot be forced. Attraction grows naturally when two people feel safe, respected, and emotionally engaged. No technique can replace genuine presence. And presence is something rare in today's world. Most people enter conversations distracted by their phones, their worries, or the next thing they need to do. Very few people truly listen. Very few people truly observe. But when you become someone who pays attention to the moment, something powerful happens. People feel it. They feel seen. They feel understood. And that alone creates a form of quiet magnetism. Because genuine attention is one of the most attractive qualities a human being can possess. Yet there is another signal that often appears when attraction deepens, and it's even more revealing than attention, curiosity, or body language. It appears in moments when the conversation briefly pauses, moments where silence enters the space between two people. Most individuals rush to fill those moments quickly, but when attraction exists, something unexpected often happens during that silence. Instead of pulling away, she stays right there. Silence is one of the most revealing moments in human interaction. Most people feel uncomfortable when conversation pauses. The mind rushes to fill the gap. Someone changes the subject, asks a quick question, or laughs nervously just to keep the flow going. But when two people feel a genuine pull toward each other, silence begins to behave differently. It stops feeling awkward. Instead, it becomes charged. If a woman feels drawn to you, one subtle thing often happens during these quiet pauses. She doesn't immediately break the moment. She lingers there with you. Her eyes may stay connected a little longer. Her body remains oriented toward you. And instead of rushing away from the pause, she allows it to exist. This might sound simple, but psychologically, it's incredibly revealing, because silence requires comfort. When someone feels emotionally neutral or uninterested, they instinctively try to escape quiet moments. Their body shifts, their attention moves somewhere else. They check their phone, glance around the room, or quickly redirect the conversation. But attraction changes that dynamic. When someone enjoys your presence, silence stops feeling like a problem that needs solving. It becomes a shared moment. Two people simply existing in the same space, without pressure. And this is where another fascinating behavior often appears. When a woman feels attraction and emotional safety at the same time, her body language begins opening up in ways that are almost impossible to fake. Her shoulders relax. Her posture faces you more directly. Her movements become slower and more comfortable. But there's one gesture in particular that psychologists have observed repeatedly in social interaction studies. and it connects directly to the idea of touch. If she lightly touches or adjusts something around her neck, collarbone, or hair while maintaining focus on you, it often reflects heightened emotional awareness. Remember earlier when we talked about self-touch behavior? This gesture becomes especially meaningful when it appears during moments of connection, because these areas of the body are linked to vulnerability. The neck and collarbone region contains important nerve pathways and arteries, which means our brains instinctively protect it in uncomfortable situations. When people feel tense or threatened, they often shield this area through crossed arms, raised shoulders, or physical distance. But when someone feels relaxed and engaged, the opposite happens. The body becomes more open. The hands may lightly touch that area while speaking or listening. This isn't about conscious signaling. It's the nervous system releasing a bit of emotional energy. And when it happens while she's focused on you, it can reflect a mixture of attraction, curiosity, and self-awareness. But again, the key word here is pattern. One gesture alone doesn't define someone's feelings. Human behavior is fluid. People move, adjust clothing, and touch their hair for countless reasons. The real insight appears when multiple signals overlap. She returns her attention to you frequently. She engages with curiosity in the conversation. Her body language mirrors yours naturally. She remains comfortable during small moments of silence, and subtle self-touch gestures appear while she's interacting with you. When these patterns happen together, the emotional picture becomes much clearer. Now here's something many people overlook. Attraction isn't just about noticing signals from the other person. It's also about the energy you bring into the interaction. People are deeply influenced by emotional atmosphere. If someone enters a conversation tense, overly self-conscious, or trying too hard to impress, it creates pressure in the environment. Pressure makes genuine connection difficult. But when someone shows up calm, attentive, and comfortable with themselves, it changes the entire dynamic. Confidence is not loud. It's not about dominating a conversation or trying to appear perfect. True confidence is quiet. It's the ability to be present without constantly seeking approval. When you carry that energy, people feel safe around you. And safety is one of the most powerful foundations of attraction, because attraction rarely grows in environments where people feel judged, pressured, or rushed. It grows where curiosity and comfort coexist. That's why the most socially magnetic people often share one simple quality. They make others feel relaxed. They listen without interrupting. They laugh easily. They allow conversations to unfold naturally instead of forcing them. And when you create that kind of space, people reveal far more of themselves than they normally would. Body language becomes more expressive. Attention becomes more focused. Touch behaviors appear more naturally. It's not because you manipulated the interaction. It's because emotional safety allows authenticity to surface. And authenticity is what makes human connection real. But there's one final layer of this psychology that many people never think about. Attraction doesn't just show up through what someone does during conversation. Sometimes it appears through something even simpler, where they choose to position themselves around you. Because physical space tells a story too. When someone likes being around you, their body begins choosing proximity in subtle ways. They stand closer than necessary. They sit slightly angled toward you in a group setting. They find reasons to remain nearby, even when the conversation ends. Distance shrinks when interest grows. And the closer two people feel emotionally, the more natural that closeness becomes. It's not dramatic, it's quiet, but it reveals everything. And once you begin noticing these patterns in everyday interactions, something fascinating happens. You start realizing how much of human communication exists beneath the surface. Words tell one story, but behavior tells the deeper one. And the people who learn to observe that deeper story gain a powerful advantage in understanding relationships, attraction, and connection. Yet there's one final truth that matters more than any signal or psychological insight. Because the real purpose of understanding attraction isn't to decode people like puzzles. It's to recognize when a genuine connection is forming. And genuine connections deserve something that goes far beyond observation. They deserve authenticity. That final piece changes everything. There's a truth about attraction that most people never hear until much later in life. The signals, the gestures, the subtle touches, the eye contact, they all matter. They help you notice when interest might be growing between two people. But none of those things are the real foundation of connection. The real foundation is how someone feels in your presence. Because attraction that lasts isn't built on tricks, techniques, or decoding body language like a puzzle. It's built on emotional experience. When someone walks away from a conversation with you, their mind doesn't replay every word that was said. Human memory doesn't work that way. Instead, the brain stores something simpler. A feeling. Did they feel comfortable? Did they feel understood? Did they feel energized by the interaction? Or did they feel tense, judged, or unnoticed? Those emotional impressions determine whether someone wants to see you again. And this is where the entire psychology of attraction shifts. Because the most attractive people are not the ones constantly trying to impress others. They are the ones who create an atmosphere where others can relax and be themselves. Think about the conversations you've enjoyed the most in your life. Chances are, the other person wasn't performing or trying to prove anything. They were simply present. They listened. They responded naturally. They allowed the conversation to flow without forcing it. And that presence created something rare in today's world: attention, real attention. When someone feels truly heard, something powerful happens inside their brain. The nervous system relaxes, stress lowers, trust begins forming, and once trust appears, attraction has room to grow. This is why the signals we talked about earlier become visible in the first place: the self-touch gestures, the repeated attention, the comfortable silence, the subtle closing of physical distance. These are not strategies people consciously deploy. They're emotional reactions to a space that feels safe and engaging, which leads to a powerful realization. The most effective way to become more attractive is not to memorize behaviors. It's to become someone who genuinely enjoys connecting with others. Curiosity is magnetic. When you become interested in people rather than focused on impressing them, conversations transform. You begin asking better questions, you notice details others miss, you respond to emotions rather than just words, and suddenly people feel something different around you. They feel seen, and that feeling is surprisingly rare. But here's something equally important. Attraction is not always mutual. Sometimes you notice signals, curiosity, attention, and yet the connection never grows beyond a certain point, and that's completely normal. Human chemistry is complex. Two people can respect each other, enjoy conversation, and still not feel a deeper pull. Understanding attraction psychology should never be used to pressure someone into feeling something they don't. Its purpose is awareness, not control. Because real connection only happens when both people move toward each other naturally. And when that happens, the signals we've talked about start appearing on both sides. Attention flows both ways. Curiosity becomes mutual. Comfort grows with time. Conversations stretch longer without effort. And moments of silence stop feeling empty. They feel meaningful. Those are the moments where something real begins forming. Not the loud, dramatic scenes we see in movies, but the quiet recognition between two people that being around each other feels good. And those moments often start with something incredibly small: a conversation, a smile, a gesture as simple as someone touching their hair or adjusting a necklace while speaking to you. Small signals that the brain is becoming aware of something interesting. But remember this: the goal is never to chase signals. The goal is to build a life and a personality that naturally attracts the right people into your world. Confidence grows from self-respect. Self-respect grows from living a life aligned with your values. When you focus on becoming emotionally grounded, curious about others, and comfortable with who you are, attraction stops feeling mysterious. Because people respond to authenticity. They respond to calm confidence. They respond to someone who makes them feel relaxed rather than evaluated. And when that energy enters a room, connections begin forming naturally. Some will stay brief, some will turn into friendships, and occasionally, one will grow into something far deeper. But the beginning always looks the same. Two people sharing attention. Two people feeling comfortable in the same space. Two people noticing small signals that something interesting might be happening. That's the quiet beginning of attraction. Now I'm curious about something. Think about the last time you felt someone might have been attracted to you. Did you notice any of these signs, like repeated attention, subtle self-touch gestures, or comfortable silence during conversation? Or did you only realize it later? Tell me in the comments. Your experience might help someone else understand signals they've been missing. And if you found this video helpful, take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who might need to hear this. Because sometimes the smallest signals reveal the biggest truths about human connection.